Just over 2 weeks now since I finished my 5-day trek across the Wicklow Way, and I've been thinking about the video series that I'm doing around it. First one didn't go as well as I'd liked, and I thought this one, what I'm going to do is 5 things I would have done differently on the Wicklow Way. Number 5, going from what I think is least important to most important, less weight. And this is just a symptom of the gear that I had to hand at the time. I do a lot of bushcraft stuff and I'm usually out 2-3 days, so I have my bushcraft rig with me, and those packs together, the webbing and the bag, weigh about 3.6 kilos, which is far from light. Even a budget 60-litre bag would have weighed 2.2 kilos. And it really changes once you start really focusing on the hiking rather than the camping. That's the big thing to bear in mind about a hike like this. You're out there to hike, it's not really about the camping. The camping is just a function of having somewhere comfortable to rest your head at night and be refreshed for the next day. So that being said, I have now invested in a proper long distance hiking bag. It showed up today, it's very impressive at first glance. And that had shaved like 2.5 kilos out of my pack. And as a result of doing the long-winded kit video I did the other day, I micro-weighed every single bit of gear I've carried, been through it, replaced a few things with lighter gear. I hiked with about a 15.5 kilo base weight, which was manageable, just not fun if you're going to do a 5-day. There's one 40-kilometer day in there, and that one gets a little tough. If I had my time over again, I'd like to get that down to 12 kilos if I could. So first one is save weight. Remember that you are on a hike, not a camping trip, and cut down anything other than the essentials that you need without leaving yourself unsafe or too uncomfortable. Leading on from number 5, number 4 is that I should have either camped or done B&Bs and not done a mix of both. I had my wife with me for the first 2 days, who likes the idea of wild camping but gets jittery when she has to stay out overnight. So we did B&Bs for the first 2 nights, then I stayed in the Mullaghmore hut on the 3rd night, and then B&B'd for the next 2 nights. Which meant I wasn't carrying the ultralight pack that I would have been if I was just going from B&B to B&B every day, but I was lugging around camping gear when I wasn't camping every night and still paying for B&Bs. So it was kind of the worst possible mix. There were reasons for it, but you really need to pick one or the other and go accordingly. And if I had to make the choice, I think if you live here or you're comfortable with wild camping and you're going to get a good night's sleep and be able to hike the next day, that's the way to go. It's significantly cheaper and just more fun in some ways, and you've got a lot less diversions off the route. If you have to go off the towns to B&B every day, then it's going to get extra distance. I did about 25k extra distance by going off the trail to a B&B and then back again. Adds up over the course of the week. Number 3, and this is apt considering what I'm doing right now, better camera gear. It's the first time I've tried to film a hike of that length. I didn't quite have the cables right, I didn't quite have the solar charger right. This tiny little Sony action cam that I'm filming up picks up loads of ambient noise. Its lens is too small to pick up great distance shots. So I think overall, if you don't mind the fact, you're not going to share it with other people, and you don't mind that you can't get the great photography out there from the frankly stunning views, fine, don't worry about it, your iPhone will do fine. But if you do want to try and capture it, you are going to need a proper camera. I realize that goes slightly against weight. It all depends on what you want to do with the hike. Number 2, and this is going to be a controversial one, I wouldn't walk the full route. The first day or the last day, depending on whether you're going south to north or north to south, I was going north to south, is 35k on the road pretty much. I mean, first 10 maybe not, but like a good 20-25k on the road from Tinnahealy down to Clonagall. And when you get to Clonagall, you've got another 5 kilometres onto Buncloddy, which is the only place that you can get the bus back to Dublin. It's monotonous, hard on your joints, hard if you're carrying weight. It's a nice summer evening kind of place to be walking down those country lanes, but it's not great hiking conditions at all. So I think you'd be better off finishing the hike in Tinnahealy, or starting the hike in Tinnahealy, or in Shillelagh. Related to that, number 1, I should have done the hike south to north. I live in Dunleary, which is very near the Dublin Mountains, and I walk that northern part of the Dublin Mountains where the hike starts, and the first 2 days of it fairly regularly. And therefore it's not exactly fresh territory. So I wanted to get through that bit as quick as possible. I kind of regret that, because The real magic is the second half of day 2, all of day 3, and the first half of day 4 if you're on a 5-day hike. And that means if you set off from south to north, the terrain gets progressively better. And if you don't live where I do and you haven't hiked all over the Dublin Mountains and the Northern Wicklow Mountains, it carries on getting better. It also means that when you finish the hike, you're coming into Dublin, so transport there from there on is much easier than Bunclody, which has like 3 buses a day, as best as I can tell, to Enniscorthy, and then from Enniscorthy you have to get the bus all the way back to Dublin. Now if you do it south to north, you're going to have to basically go down and stay overnight and then start hiking the next day. But coming back, you almost have to stay over that night and then leave the next morning to come back to Dublin anyway, so it doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of difference. If it was up to me, I think what I would do is carry less weight, wild camp, with better camera gear, apologies for the filming quality, there's some on order. I would not hike the full route. I would start in Shillelagh or Tinahely, and I would go from south to north. That's my 5 things that I would have done differently if I'd done the Wicklow Way. Love to hear from anyone else in the comments section who's done it themselves.